Hello, I'm Mark.
And I'm Casey.
I'm Patrick.
Welcome to the Tesla Life Express, where today we're going to talk a little bit about some newscasts that we think are FUD, or as we like to call it, FUDcasts. So let's roll the intro, and we'll be back in a moment. Yes, indeed, FUDcasts, a new form of network programming that we have been able to see lately. Now, the story we're going to talk about tonight is one that a few different stations have done this, but we decided to pick on News Channel 8 from Las Vegas. And we'll put the link in the notes if you actually want to watch this FUD, but we're going to describe a little bit as to what is happening here. The news station decided that they were going to do a story about Teslas and how there were hidden costs that EV owners should be aware of before they actually get out there and purchase something. So they're trying to do us, the consumer, a favor and let us know that there are hidden costs that we're not aware of. So the scene opens up where they're at a supercharger. And immediately they're talking to someone that's supercharging. And they must have had a real hard time finding somebody that wasn't pleased with their Tesla, because everyone they interviewed were just praising about the car, its speed, its performance, the no maintenance, there are no fan belts, there's no oil changes. They were just raving about it, about the vehicles. And they mentioned it during the actual conversation a few times that nobody was upset with the vehicles at all. They all seemed to want to talk about them and loved them.
The closest thing they had to like a gotcha quote was the one guy said, "It's easy to use as my golf cart, but it's a lot faster."
Yeah.
Exactly. So that was interesting off the start. But then the news reporter sat down with a gentleman called Carl Cook, who happened to own an insurance company. And Carl wanted to let us prospective EV owners know that insurance, when it comes to insurance for EVs, that prices are higher in a lot of cases. And even some insurers will not pre-approve an insurance to the vehicle. And in some cases, there's a few weeks of a waiting period. And Carl went on to trumpet these problems with the EVs. This is why insurance companies have a problem with them, is because they have an issue with these cars for repair costs, that they are costly to repair. He mentioned the main battery pack as a prime example of how much these vehicles actually parts cost for these vehicles. They talked about how they could be damaged in a use scenario, and the purchaser would have no idea because of the electronic bells and whistles that do not allow you to understand that the vehicle has been damaged or hurt in any way. Again, this is classic FUD. Watching this was painful for me. Just watching this go along, I was like, who is this guy? Why is he the only insurance agent in town that's not willing to, insure a vehicle? Like, this was kind of crazy.
You should have seen the messages I was sending Mark as I was watching it.
Well, I mean, so go ahead, Casey. I didn't mean to cut you off.
So if you're in a collision that damages the main battery pack, the car is going to be totaled anyway, because if it reaches that far inside the vehicle, either as a side collision or a front or rear collision, a substantial portion of the car is flat, and you repairing that would be not a smart move. So they're going to just write it off anyway. And the bit about the cars are so high tech, blah blah blah. So is a combustion car. There's no difference as far as, well, actually, the EV is simpler than the combustion car, and same sort of situation. It's all computer controlled. It's all got manufacturer specific stuff because they want you to buy their tools. But
yeah, one of the quotes in there was, "This isn't your grandfather's Oldsmobile." That applies to any modern car. So
It's
it's
been on
one
sale
of those.
for 20 years.
It's
Of
it's
course, the
it's a
solution,
statement.
Patrick, is that we all have to go to buy cars from 1975 or older.
Right.
Right.
But-
That would solve all these problems.
But like your grandfather's Oldsmobile, you can get your service manuals for as a individual. You can get your service manuals for a Tesla to do work that can be done at home without needing to be an electrician or qualified technician. You can. They're like, hey, here's how to change your tires. Here's the settings, and here's the 195 foot-pounds of torque, and that sort of thing. And some of the stuff they were saying was like on the knife edge of fact and truth, or was fact and truth and twisted. Yes, there are some
Yes.
insurers that are not insuring the cars, but it's not nobody. And they're like, oh, well, your insurance is going. My insurance went down repeatedly as I got my cars more electrified. It went down with my first 2012 Volt. It stayed the same with the second 2012 Volt. It went down again with the Model S. And then for some reason, it went down even further when I got a P100D Model X. Like the most irresponsible I could think of. And it still went down because they said, oh, it's a safe family car with good crash test ratings.
Yeah, the best FUD has a little bit of truth in it. And so the comparison they did was a Model X versus something like a Camry.
Yeah.
And so yeah, you have to look at this. This insurance is so much more expensive. That again is it's true that the X costs more than a Camry because it costs more to buy that car. If you were comparing it to a comparably priced car, now you have a good argument. But what they are doing is twisting the data as much as they possibly can. And when you do that, I can't just go, oh, that was a lie, because that was a factual statement. It was just completely irrelevant to
apples and oranges.
Yes, exactly.
He waited 9 months for his car to be repaired at the height of the pandemic when everybody was out of parts because there was a tanker that was blocking all of global shipping.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
I saw that, Patrick, when they brought up on screen Model X, and then they showed the price of the vehicle, and then they said, okay, insurance for that vehicle is this. Then they compared it to a Ford Escape.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
Which is not even close to the price of a Model X. And then they said, but there's even cars that are thousands of dollars less on insurance. And that's when they brought up the Camry and the Nissan Altima. And I was like, idiots. This is unbelievable that they're comparing a Model X to a Altima. And I was like, what's going on here? Is this on purpose? It
has to be. Yeah, so if you're in the Tesla know, then you're going to obviously see that. But if you don't know what the Model X is and you just hear it's a Tesla compared to these other cars, oh, the Tesla's so much more expensive. Yeah, it's a bad argument.
Yeah. Even at the intro, they opened with the guy who said about the golf cart. That's easy as a golf cart. They were trying to make it look like, he has to charge here for hours a day, but they kind of told on themselves like, hey, he's here to take advantage of some sort of community event or whatever he was there to do, and that was what was taking up his time. He was just getting juice. And they're like, oh, this is going to cost him this much. And his car looked old enough that it probably had free supercharging.
Right. If you start out with the premise of I want to make Tesla look bad, you can go and find enough cherry-picked data to do that. But you really got to work hard at it. So I don't think this was a good faith effort at all.
It was not. But they were focusing on Tesla, but they didn't want you to get any EVs.
Yeah, they kept saying EV, but they would intermix Tesla and EV all the time, just to, that there wasn't a difference really as far as they were concerned. And then this Carl Cook, he decides to drive home the point that he would never let his son own a Tesla because
he doesn't love his kids?
Because he doesn't love his kid. No, that's not what he said.
I would never let my kids drive the safest car on the road. Are you crazy?
I'd never do that. But he said that he would never do it because of the cost of a fender bender in the high school parking lot. And I'm thinking, who gives their kid a Model X as their first car to drive in high school? Come on.
She'll be over 20 years old by the time she gets it, but
Yeah, it's brand new at that point, isn't it? Yeah. It's like, I don't think so. So yeah, I wouldn't give my kid a Model X brand new to drive around in high school either. They would get
Agreed.
a beater car because of course they are going to beat on it because they're just a new driver.
Yeah.
17 model.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yes,
Then they
it was.
decided to go. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, and then they wanted to talk about tires.
Mm-hmm.
What about tires, Casey? What's the problem with tires?
Well, again, with the nugget of truth, as Patrick said, the depending on what EV you drive and how you drive it, you will burn through more tires than others at about 80% faster, or sorry, at 80% rate, so 20% faster.
Right.
But the reasoning they gave, they told themselves for a little bit, but they said, "Oh, the cars are all heavier." Some of them are heavier, but most of them are matched with the competition. So a Model 3 Performance and a BMW M3, they're within 200 pounds of each other, depending on which M3 you look at. They're right there, and then of course how you drive it is going to matter. If they said wise, oh, they're super quick. Yeah, if you are just burning out at every stoplight to stoplight, slamming the lightning pedal, yes, you're gonna go through tires. But I drive a Performance Model X. I go about 50,000 miles between sets of tires.
Yep.
Then
They do have chill mode if you want to use it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, chill mode, but that would probably help me even more.
It's the driver having fun is what burns most of that extra 20%. You can contain yourself and not burn the tire off that quickly, but man, you get behind the wheel and you just love to do it. But again, once you pay for that extra set of tires up front, maybe you start to think, okay, I can, I'll do this a little bit less, but it's still fun.
On my Model S, I let it do the auto height for the highway for fuel savings, and I did save a lot of fuel, but the tires were a little quicker. So I turned that to just always be at I think I did always low, or I did one height. The X definitely was always low from the time we left the showroom. And again, once I didn't have the car doing this all the time, 50,000 miles a set.
Yeah. So you find these things out, but it's good to know up front. But again, there's just a nugget of truth there. It's not all truth. Next thing they did is they decided to throw up a few bullet points on the screen to drive this home to the person watching the show. And the bullet points were that the cars, dealers don't stock them very well in showrooms, so they're hard to find. Secondly,
hard to find a dealer. Actually, yeah.
There's high replacement battery costs, and again, this is not something a normal consumer is going to deal with when they buy a new vehicle. The car has a coverage of 8+ years on the battery. Okay, they don't want the battery to be gone in 5 years because they know the manufacturer's on the hook for it. So they're not making vehicles that have disposable batteries. And finally, the initial cost is higher. Duh. Okay, we've only known that forever. But of course, they didn't mention about all the maintenance is cheaper. They didn't mention about the incentives. They didn't mention about the fuel cost difference. They didn't mention those things.
Yeah, right. It's a $35,000 Model 3 is back.
Yeah, and then here's the one that really got me. Is they almost go back to the studio. The reporter's back in the studio. He's talking to the camera, and he says, "Oh, and also, of course, the Biden administration recently passed new legislation that makes the EV credit harder to get. Only a handful of drivers actually now qualify." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is on purpose. This is a guy that's trying. This station is trying to sabotage EV adoption." For whatever reason.
That one was another nugget of truth is since Biden took office, the wages have gone up and unemployment has gone down. And on top of that, this year, they got stricter with what qualifies for the IRA. So only
for the good of the country.
Right.
So only a handful of cars currently qualify for the system. So, I mean, that would affect you if you buy a car that doesn't qualify, or if you make too much money because you had, some of the prosperity that came about.
Yeah, what a good problem to have. Oh, I have too much money.
I have too much. Whatever will I do?
First world problems.
Right.
Yeah, this was amazing. Amazing piece of reporting that had an agenda behind it. It certainly seemed like, or they were completely had no idea about what was going on. I got to believe it was the former, just because the points were just too precise. There was just those nuggets of truth in it, so they could get by it. Over 600,000 people have viewed this video so far, and of course, people like us that know the score, we're just outraged about this. We can understand where they're going. But the problem is that someone that's thinking about buying an EV for the first time and has not done much research or talked to their local EV chapter in their city, they're going to be floored by a report like this. They are going to be now second guessing their thought. Their spouses are going to say, "Well, did you see that? We're not buying one of those. I'm not going to get myself into that kind of trouble."
I don't want to buy new tires every month and pay triple for insurance. I'm out.
And replacing batteries every 3 years is just not for me. Yeah. That's exactly it.
On their own, it will be placed adjacent to put that in their head. Why don't you just buy a hybrid? Or worse, why don't you just buy a plug-in hybrid? It's like, wait a minute. So now you're buying a full gas car and an EV that doesn't go as far, and it's not going to have any of these problems.
And a lot of people trust their local news, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's the people that live in their area, and you watch it to find out stuff happening in your neighborhood, and so you have some trust with them, and then they do this kind of FUD. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And for a second, I need to go back to the IRA situation there. Yes, there were just a handful of cars that qualified as January rolled around, but already we see all of these manufacturers making the right moves to bring the cars home to make them all qualify, from Tesla to BMW to GM. Everybody is moving that way, Kia even. So yeah.
Casey, it said right there in the report that only a small handful of owners even qualify. Like it was ridiculous.
It was, yes.
But, oh my gosh. But what do you think out there? Send us a comment. Let us know what you think about this FUD report, if you can stomach watching it. But that's another story. But we appreciate you watching with us. If you haven't already, please give us a thumbs up. Press that subscribe. Press the bell. We're doing more videos all the time. So be notified whenever a new video shows up automatically by pressing that bell. With that, Casey, any shout-outs for the end of the show?
Yeah. Catch us on Sundays at 1:10 p.m. over at youtube.com/Casey Green. That's KACEYGREN. Double E. I kind of slurred them together there. So if you like this stuff about Tesla, we do this, but about more stuff. So check it out, please.
Very good. Patrick, any shout-outs?
Yeah, Mark, you mentioned your local EV club. So I definitely want to give a shout out to my local EV club, the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find them at oeva.org. And go check out any that are in your area, either Tesla owners or Electric Auto Association groups, because you can go talk to people that really drive these cars every day, their experience with them. And you can, if you heard some FUD, go ask them, is this true? And get it from the horse's mouth instead of some news channel with an agenda. Thanks.
Exactly. Well, with that, we'll catch you next time and get together on the Tesla life.
Future free from fossil fuels.
The good stuff.
Good night, everyone.